Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. This is Webster Tarpley here in Washington, D.C. Once again, that class we were talking about for mid-December looks like it's going to go more in the direction of mid-January, but do stay tuned. And in the meantime, keep up with everything at tarpley.net. If you want to know about the Chechen rebels and their relations to the CIA, go to 9/11 Synthetic Terror Made in USA. And if you want to read specifically about Ilyas Akhmedov, the ambassador of that monstrosity, you can read about that in Obama, the Postmodern Coup, the Making of a Manchurian Candidate. But now we're switching our attention to U.S. domestic, and in particular to the very decisive situation in Benton Harbor, Michigan, and in Michigan in general. And this is, of course, the fact that there's going to be a sentencing hearing on the 15th of December, at least that's what's scheduled, for our dear friend, the Reverend Edward Pinkney, who is the mass leader of the resistance against this kind of fascism in Michigan as a whole, and has been recognized by the United Nations as being that kind of a mass leader. So some of the friends of Reverend Pinkney, including the United Front Against Austerity and the Tax Wall Street Party, have been doing as much as possible to try to spread the word and to try to obtain a overturning of this verdict and freedom for Pinkney. So to get a report about this, no better person to ask than Daniela Walls, who is the chairwoman of the Tax Wall Street Party, who has been keeping in touch with people in the United States and around the world, and that's really a big deal, to give us a report on what's going on. Daniela, welcome.
Out with how the Tax Wall Street Party is mobilized, and then if we have time later, we can get into some philosophical issues that were raised on our last night's United Front Radio with Reverend Pinkney about institutionalized racism. And as Pinkney said, we need to fight the big war instead of all these small battles that are going to continuously pop up. And he said the right way to strategically fight a war and the most bang for your buck is that we're going to need systemic reform to the economy. But let's start with the nuts and bolts, if we can, of what our party is actually doing. So the Tax Wall Street Party is mobilized in half the states and about 10 countries now and growing. Yesterday, our D.C. local put Pinkney flyers into the hands of the economist Dean Baker and former Representative Dennis Kucinich. And Kucinich is very interested in the case. We are in communication through our D.C. local with Congressman John Conyers' office, and we had meetings with his staffers already. We are in contact with the office of Congresswoman Marcy Kaptur, trying to help Pinkney first, but also to bring into the larger focus of the emergency manager laws. Last night, the D.C. local went to a party with Bernie Sanders and had a talk with him where Bernie Sanders did not know what the emergency manager's laws were, which was shocking, but speaks volumes about the state of our so-called progressive politics in America. What you were going to say?
You're right. Shocking. Please go ahead.
Shocking. So to bring home what this emergency management means, because you might not hear about it from Bernie Sanders, it seems, if you have any public parks, public schools, public beaches, public art museums, public anything, all of that is going to get privatized, and it's going to get sold for pennies on the dollars and inside deals and crony capitalism. So what's happening in Benton Harbor and Detroit is a template. All of your art museums, like I said, parks, beaches, state parks, are going to be sold in these insider deals and land grabs. Land grabs is a key term, and that's what's happening in Benton Harbor with the beach. Also, your firehouses and libraries could be made into upscale condominiums, like we've seen and talked about several times on the show. And that's the future that awaits all of us. So our local is working on organizing and sending out as many letters to Judge Chirac as they can. I want to ask each of your audience members to send one or more of these letters as well. But at least make sure if you're in the audience you send one. You'll find a sample letter at an instructional website we set up. That's freepinkney, freepinkney.wordpress.com. You will need to print 2 copies of your letter and send one to Judge Chirac and one to Pinkney. This is important to send one to Pinkney so he has a record of these correspondences and in case the judge just chucks them. The address of both Pinkney and the judge are at freepinkney.wordpress.com. We have locals now, like you said, in many countries. in personal contact with their foreign embassies and OSCE offices. This is in India now, Moscow, Spain, Denmark, Ireland, England, Thailand, Australia, France, and Germany. They're in action. We have locals writing articles, including Brandon Turbeville in South Carolina has written a few about the emergency manager laws for activist posts. If you go to activistpost.com, you can find them. We need as many articles as possible covering Pinckney. So if you're a writer or even have a blog, write one, and then contact all of your local media. On freepinckney.wordpress.com, we have a post called Talking Points for Journalists. Use that to arm yourself with facts, and that will help a journalist have something to sink their teeth into, what we wrote there. People should also be contacting big magazines like Time Magazine, Newsweek, the New York Times, Democracy Now!, Counterpunch, Matt Taibbi at Rolling Stone. Civil rights abuses are the hot issue right now, so we need to strike while the iron is hot. If you can think of any more, Webster, do you think of any more big magazines that might be friendly to this that I missed?
You got to think about the Atlantic Monthly, Harper's, a little bit higher brow, right? The Nation, to be sure. The Nation.
The Nation.
Of Katrina vanden Heuvel.
And then letters from lawyers and judges are gold right now. Letters from everybody are gold, but letters from lawyers and judges are gold right now. So if you are a judge or you are a lawyer, please contact me immediately at taxwallstreetparty@gmail.com. We've already gotten letters from lawyers of goodwill that I'm working with drafting, going over the legal briefs and drafting a proper letter with the facts of the case, and also some memos and motions. So we are looking in general for polite, professional letters that restate the facts of the case and implore the judge to overturn the verdict for insufficient evidence. And that's what's important. So that if don't be afraid in the letter to a judge to write your profession, your address, where you're from. There's not going to be any blowback from that. Make that professional and restate the facts of the case. So with the help of Reverend Pinckney, that's where I could cover. That's as much of the action I could cover for right now. But with the help of Reverend Pinckney, we're leading and moving economic demands from into the Ferguson debate. So we did an hour last night with Pinckney on racism and economics on United Front Radio, just like how you did yeoman service, Webster, during Occupy, steering part of that toward a program. With the Ferguson issue, we must both allow for an open conversation about institutionalized racism and push the conversation into the realm of economics. There was a very interesting piece in Time magazine this week by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in which he said the coming race war won't be just about race, and we feel that's critically important to steer activism away from, unfocused racial strife into the into some common arena that has common ground, which is economic reform. But we can't deny that there is institutionalized racism. As Pinckney said last night, if we have economic equality, racism will still be there, but it won't be as great. He also said waiting for months and months on all of these verdicts to come in takes time away from building, and building on our foundation, which is the platform for recovery. When I've been listening this week to black political radio shows and white political radio shows, it seems that, again, it's a little reminiscent of Occupy, where nobody has a battle plan. There's a lot of anger, a lot of chaos, a lot of confusion, but no program. People are using words on some shows like we need to go to battle. But then there's no vision for what it will look like after they win, and that's always been the tenuous part of any revolution. So people are saying things like, kill the rich, and they focus on boycotting one specific company. Those kind of terms are being thrown around now. So there's no discussion. And also it's focusing on small things like one company, but there's no discussion of a broad-based reform. Like in the case of Benton Harbor, the obvious issue was a protective tariff. Like what happened to the Benton Harbor jobs? They went to Mexico, they went to China. Why? And free trade means removing the financial penalty for a company like Whirlpool to import goods from overseas. So contact me. I hear the music, Webster, at
That's right. So sorry.
email. Especially if you're a lawyer or a judge, I need you to come to me now. Thank you, Webster. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. I'll touch next week. And we've been intervening on that in lots of meetings, and it's been getting a very good hearing. We'll be back in a minute.